Hi, I'm Mike Sham from the State of the Nation, and I want to talk about our very, very reluctant President Cyril Ramaphosa's recent cabinet reshuffle. He kept the country waiting for 3 months after his election at Nasrec as ANC president, where apparently he had so much more power that he could just make appointments to his liking. It took 3 months. And then, further disrespecting the South African public, he kept us waiting for another couple of hours. And then at the last minute, even added another half an hour before he finally ascended to the podium, looked like he wanted to curl up in the fetal position, and delivered his address. Now, putting that rudeness aside, I want to talk about his speech, because he started off by, before he announced his changes, by announcing that this cabinet is going to get serious. And he is committed to a leaner, stronger cabinet that can actually take action. And he stressed that he's going to make this cabinet leaner. So what does he do? He adds 2 extra ministers, 2 extra deputy ministers, and doesn't reduce anything. So in other words, he's made the cabinet bigger. That's after he's told us that he's going to make the cabinet leaner. So let's start there. Right, that's a nice way to start. He then says that he's going to fight the 3 scourges that bedevil South Africa at the moment. Power, the Eskom crisis and load shedding. Second one he's going to tackle is unemployment. And the third one he's going to tackle is crime and corruption. Go and listen to it. Very boring speech, but go and listen to it. This is before he announces the changes to his cabinet. So let's take those 3 major issues that are so problematic for us South Africans, and they are. Let's talk electricity. This was the big announcement. He's Minister of Electricity. Well, you could be forgiven for thinking that this is some great idea to have a Minister for Electricity. But understand that electricity is already covered by 2 other ministers. Pravin Gordhan, who's the head of public enterprises, in other words, is the boss of Eskom, and Gwedi Mantashe, who's the Minister of Mining and Energy. In other words, it's his job to get more energy. Now you're going to bring a 3rd guy in there to try and solve the energy crisis? It's not going to work, eh? I've never seen 3 people. If 2 people can't do the job, I don't know if number 3 is going to do. What are number 1 and number 2 going to do? Watch number 3 work? More likely they're just going to get in the way. We know that Gwedi Mantashe has been in charge of minerals and energy now for nearly 4 years, and he hasn't added 1 megawatt of power to the grid. Highly unlikely. We finally hear from Pravin Gordhan, and all he could say was, oh yes, Andre de Ruyter did tell me about the corruption, but I didn't do anything about it, and Andre de Ruyter must go to the police. If we go to his second point, that of unemployment, which is hovering around the 50% mark. The economy is in tatters. Growth has gone negative. Cyril Ramaphosa gives us some urgency. Now, we all understand that unemployment can only be solved by an improving economy. But let's just drill down a little bit into this. South Africa has just recently been grey listed internationally. What does this mean? This is a bit like getting a judgment against an individual because you couldn't handle your own affairs. In this case, South Africa had years to comply with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations and do what they have to do in order to make South Africa investable. Right? We did nothing. Now we're going to try and fix everything up so that maybe in a couple of years' time they will take us off the grey list. Why not just avoid it in the first place? You're going to have to do it eventually. This is not good for unemployment. But anyway, he's going to fight unemployment. Let's look at unemployment. Once again, let's stay there. Let's look at trade and industry. We've got a cabinet position, Minister of Trade and Industry. Who's in charge? Ibrahim Patel. South Africa's last remaining committed communist. This guy's more of a communist that Bladen Zimandi, who heads up the South African Communist Party. He's a committed communist, and he says it. I mean, that's what he does. And in some kind of joke, President Cyril Ramaphosa sees fit to make this guy the Minister of Trade and Industry, the man who hates trade and industry. You're going to put him in charge. The guy who thought it was a good idea to tell you what you can't and cannot wear during lockdowns. This guy's going to run the economy. Well, he's been there for a couple of years. He's made a mess of it. You're not going to solve unemployment by having ministers like this. He does follow a long line of other hardened communists, Rob Davies, Alec Irwin. They were both those kind of leather-patched, elbow-wearing communists that smoke pipes and tell you how bad the free market is. Little surprised that our unemployment has ballooned 50%. Then we're going to talk about crime and corruption. Right? Crime and corruption. President Ramaphosa, I just looked around. He has 3 books telling you about the crime and corruption in your own party. Can't be that difficult. People have had enough time to write books. Some of these books are old. They're here because they've already sort of been on the shelves for years and years. Nobody's gone to jail. But let's look at the people in charge of the action against crime and corruption. Well, we've got Becky Tele, head of the police service. It's a guy who even Jacob Zuma had to kick out of his cabinet because he's so bent, right? The guy who did dodgy property deals. And yet, somehow, President Ramaphosa thinks he's going to get a handle on crime. The guy's the ultimate ambulance chaser. Our Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamola, this guy's completely out of his depth. They finally bring a case against the Guptas. It's a slam dunk affair. The Vrede dairy farm. This was before the Guptas even tried to hide their crimes. And the people sent out to prosecute the case couldn't even make it to trial. They had to throw it out of trial because they couldn't even get the paperwork right. But President Ramaphosa is convinced that we're going to get a handle on electricity, unemployment, and crime and corruption using Ministers Gwedi Mantashe, Pravin Gordhan, Ibrahim Patel, Becky Tele, Ronald Lamola. Needless to say, none of them got shuffled. They're still in his cabinet. Who did get shuffled? The minor portfolios, sports and recreation. Who did they put in his place? Somebody who was shown to be corrupt at the Zondo Commission. We get what we deserve in South Africa, and I don't think that the 2024 elections can come soon enough.